So today I'm going to be trying to get the Platinum Trophy for Metal Gear Solid Delta. Metal Gear Solid has 46 trophies, a 5 out of 10 difficulty, and takes around 20 hours to beat, but I did it in 36. So the first trophy in this game comes quicker than me with a woman, and it's for starting a game in new style. The story for this game is pretty simple. We play as Snake, and we're sent into a fictional place I can't pronounce in the Soviet Union to save a scientist who defected to America. Then was sent back for smelling bad, and now we have to bring him back again. Now, believe it or not, this game makes you watch roughly 15 minutes of cutscenes until you can physically control Snake, and then you get to play a whopping 30 seconds of gameplay, followed once again by 10 minutes of talking, and then Kojima finally lets you play his game. So now I could finally get along with the trophies, and I got my second one for shooting the first Gakko or duck collectible. Also, I didn't realize, but there was a crocodile just chilling in that bush I was standing in, and the guy freaking tripped me into the mud, which accidentally got me a trophy for achieving a camo index of 90% or higher. And quite a bit later, I shot my first keratin, or frog collectible, popping another trophy. Then about a minute after that, I got an easy trophy where you have to use bees to harass an enemy, and to get this you can just shoot a beehive hanging above an enemy to pop that trophy. We would then go on a 20-minute dry spell of getting no trophies, but I did end up finding the scientist guy who we had to extract. However, our plan didn't go so well, as we were ambushed by Ocelot and his goons. But little did he know I've mastered the art of taking on multiple men at once, and disposed of him and his goons with ease, also popping the trophy. I reunite with the scientist and he tells me about the Shagohod, which is Russia's new super weapon that we obviously have to destroy because we can't have Russia thinking they're top shit. Anyways, as we're leaving across this really flimsy, poorly made bridge, the boss would approach from the other side with the game's main villain, Colonel Volgan, signifying that she's joined the dark side and betrayed America. The boss taunts Snake thinking he won't pull the trigger, and she's right because she somehow dismantles my gun within 2 seconds, destroys me in a fight, and then throws me off the bridge like I'm Jin from Ghost of Tsushima. 1 week later, after we've recovered from our injuries, we are dropped back into the jungle to finish the job. While exploring the jungle, I find this random horse just chilling, so I go to pet the big guy, but he was just the bait for the trap, and the boss once again little bros me in close quarters combat, but doesn't finish the kill, so that makes me wonder if she still has a crush on me. Shortly after, ICQC slammed the guard into the ground so hard he coughed up a lung and reconsidered all his life choices that led him to this moment for a trophy. Moving on, I return to Razvet, where we encounter this mysterious woman on a motorcycle who mowed down a bunch of thugs while holding her gun sideways like she had experience in gang-related drive-bys, but like that's none of my business. She introduces herself as Eva while walking towards us and unzipping her shirt, which leads to an unexpected but yet tasteful boob shot. And for the next 5 minutes of cutscenes, I spent all that time looking at her massive honkers. Like, how am I meant to not look at them? Waking up in the morning, we are treated to some more of Ocelot and his thugs, where Ocelot does the unthinkable and takes my hot GF hostage while also grabbing a handful of titty. But this is no problem for Eva, as she quickly puts Ocelot in the friend zone while I watch from a distance with drool running down my cheek. I then got a very easy trophy for sitting down and enjoying a quick lunch break where I ate my snake sandwich. Now after that would be the first boss fight of the game, being Ocelot. This fight's pretty easy. I just sprayed him with my AK-47 while taking cover when I needed to, and eventually ended up beating him, which actually doesn't reward you with a trophy, but instead a cutscene introducing the next boss, which would be the Pain, who ambushes our fight, attacking us with hornets and forcing Snake to jump down into a cave, which was absurdly dark, but I found the torch and made it to the end where the Pain was waiting to fight. Now later on, this guy is an absolute menace to fight, as we have to kill him on the hardest difficulty for the Foxhound trophy, but for now, as I am playing on easy, I take my time and once again just spray him with the AK, eventually killing him and popping a trophy. The next area would be the warehouse, where we finally find Sokolov, but he's accompanied by Volgan, who's in one of his moods as you can see him electrocuting this woman so hard her leggings disintegrate. Also, Ocelot makes Sokolov piss himself. I just thought you all should know that. Moving on, I make my way through various areas, attempting to be stealthy but failing every time, and watching insanely long cutscenes that honestly aren't that interesting, but after you go through all that, you reach the Fear boss fight. The Fear can be compared to a predator, and no, not the one one from the movie. He's a fast guy that likes to jump from tree to tree, shooting you with his crossbow while also being invisible, but he was no match for my AK-47, and when I killed him, I got a trophy. The next boss fight would be less than 10 minutes later, where we fought the End, who channels the spirits of the forest. He's kinda like the Lorax, but way older and not orange. Anyways, the End can be annoying to fight because he's a master of camouflage, making it hard to spot him after he shoots you with his sniper. He moves to another spot, so you have to chase him around. But I used my sniper for this fight and followed him to the 3 different spots I noticed he liked to go and killed him for a trophy. Moving on, we get to experience one of the greatest moments in gaming history, where we get to climb a ladder for 3 whole minutes while also listening to this sick beat.
I'm still in a dream, snake eater.
When you get to the top, you get put into the mountains area, where I got a trophy for using a knife to remove a bullet like an absolute Chad. After pushing my way through the mountains, with nothing but my trusty AK-47 and RPG, we're met with a nice surprise. Eva is back, and no surprise, her honkers are out again. Eva explains the plan in way too much detail, and I kinda tuned her out because who can actually listen to a woman talk that long? But she would eventually stop yapping, and I left for the next area, where we got to fight the Fury, whose whole thing is fire, and that's about it. He's not that hard to beat at all, and I killed him for a trophy. Let's continue on to Groznygrad, which is one of the bigger areas in the game where you're supposed to be more stealthy, as that was the plan, but I am no smarter than a 5th grader. I unga-bungaed my way through this area like a fool, and ended up popping a random trophy for CQC interrogating an enemy. I eventually figure out what to do and disguise myself as an officer, where we find Sokolov and try to free him again, but he tells me I have to destroy the Shagohod first, or the world will be screwed like my girlfriend by the pool guy. So the theme in this game is that our plans usually don't work, and this time is no different because Vulcan walks in and figures out I'm a spy by grabbing my nuts. Not once, but twice, so I obviously have to re-establish my dominance and take him down. But the boss is here to save the day and makes me her bitch, but at least Snake put up a fight this time. Now, unfortunately, we're being tortured by Vulcan, who instructs the boss to cut out my eye, but Ocelot can't help but get involved and does his fancy little gun trick, which takes so long, Snake bumps him, and Ocelot accidentally shoots him in the eye. And that's the backstory to how Snake lost his eye, which I actually never knew. So after being used and abused by Vulcan, he throws us in a prison cell where you have to escape somehow, and because I can't figure out a simple puzzle for the life of me, it took me about 30 minutes of running in circles until I gave up and googled how to escape. One of the ways to escape is to use the fake death pill, which actually gives you a trophy. But I also forgot to use the revival pill, so I just died. Another way to escape was to spin Snake in circles in the menu screen so he barfs, which gives you a trophy. And it also makes the guard open the door so I can make my grand escape, where I bolted out of Groznygrad into the sewers, where Ocelot gave chase and cornered me, so I had to do the unthinkable and swanton dive like Jeff Hardy off a cliff into the water below, where my head hit the water so hard I hallucinated a boss fight against the Sorrow. This boss fight can either be a breeze or the most annoying thing ever, and I found out the hard way because this boss spawns more enemies depending on how many soldiers you've killed throughout the game, and I killed a lot. Once again, I spent an embarrassing amount of time trying to beat this guy until I got so mad I googled the answer, and what do you know? It says you can drown yourself in the water and use the revival pill to completely skip this boss and get the trophy. After that, Eve shows up and tried to seduce me with her massive honkers, but Snake isn't feeling so solid and denies her. Our boy Snake returns to Groznygrad one final time to put some C4 on the Shagohod, but notices Vulcan and Ocelot staring over an unconscious woman. The Vulcan boss fight is a bit of a weird one, as you can't really use guns to kill him. You basically have to dodge his attacks, grab him, and then kick him while he's down, and even on normal difficulty, Vulcan was whooping my ass, so I decided to shoot Ocelot watching from the rafters and popped a trophy. Also, I eventually killed Vulcan for another trophy. After defeating Vulcan, we make our grand escape, and Eve makes us ride in the little guy's seat in her motorbike while we're trying to evade the Shagohod and shoot enemies at the same time, which actually goes on for a while until we lure the Shag towards a bridge and blow it up with C4. But unfortunately, the Shagohod doesn't go down that easily.
Oh shit, Here we go again.
The first time I fought this, I was actually very confused on how to kill it until I eventually learned that you have to shoot the wheels and then attack the back with an RPG. The Shaggerhard is actually a multiple phase boss fight, and when you drain the first health bar, Vulcan pops out and takes control of the whole thing, where you basically have to do the same thing, but this time you shoot Vulcan until you eventually kill him and pop the trophy. Finally, Vulcan goes up in flames and dies, but the fun isn't over yet because these flying virgins decide to try and step to us, but of course I dispatch them with my godlike accuracy and we escape. However, Eve was looking at TikToks while driving and we crashed, so now Eve has a limp and I have to make her follow me through the jungle, and the AI is the worst thing since the Diddy incident. In the finale of this game, we have to fight the boss, and let me tell you, even on normal difficulty, she was abusing me like Hassan's dog. I easily spent over an hour getting used like a worn-out prostitute trying to beat the boss, until I executed the readiest gameplay possible, and finally landed the killing blow on her, popping me the trophy. Now forgive me for skipping over the final cutscenes, but I don't want to spoil them, and there also was some things your Christian eyes shouldn't see. However, as the credits rolled, I got one final trophy for clearing the game on any difficulty. Now, it's time for the cleanup stage, where I still actually had a decent amount of trophies left to get, so I started with an easy trophy where I reloaded my save and found Ocelot in the background of this cutscene like he was Michael Myers. After that, I clicked on my food collection and got a trophy. Then I used photo mode for the first time, which I could have actually done at any time, but nonetheless, here's that trophy. I also captured a live snake, but you can capture any animal for this trophy. Shortly after, I used said snake to throw at an enemy, which poisoned him, and now he's going to die a slow, painful death. Next, I put on my sexy scientist outfit and rolled in the mud like an OnlyFans chick with no self-respect for a trophy. This next trophy was a bit annoying, as I had to get behind this guy and take him hostage, but the prompt wouldn't show up, so I googled it and found out you can't hold the left stick to walk forward and press the button at the same time. You actually have to sneak up behind him, let go of left stick, and then you can grab him. Moving on, I found some TNT and decided to blow up a building. However, I think Snake's considered a terrorist now. After you defeat the fear, there's this area where you can set up traps to catch this animal not even its illusion could pronounce right, and I actually caught it on my first try, which I heard was uncommon. We would then go on to the end boss fight, where I snuck up behind him and took him hostage, forcing him to drop an item which pops a trophy. And not even 5 seconds later, I got another trophy for achieving a camo index of 100%. So now we would basically skip to the end of the game, and in the area where you fight the boss, I popped 2 trophies. Firstly for collecting all 64 keratons, and another for finding all 64 Gakos. While I was here, I also got a trophy for parrying all of the boss's CQC attacks. I then finished my second playthrough with 2 trophies for obtaining every camo uniform and face paint, and secondly for achieving 100% for the food collection. After finishing the second playthrough, I had to clean up a few more trophies, and I got this one for holding up an enemy. Next up was an easy one for calling a healing radio frequency. Then I went on to get a trophy I forgot to do on my first playthrough, and it's for killing the end before the boss battle, which is very easy. You can just snipe him and you pop the trophy. And once again, an easy trophy for starting a game in a legacy style. The following trophy I got is for listening to Paramedic yap about movies after you save the game. I did have one setback while getting this platinum. It happened when I did my second playthrough, which was getting all the collectibles and not killing anyone for the Peace Walker trophy, but when I finished, Peace Walker didn't pop, and I don't know why, so I had to do another playthrough, and when I finished that, it finally popped. But now, it's time for the trophy you've all been waiting for. The trophy that took it upon itself to min-max my pain and suffering, Foxhound. This trophy was just horrible for me. It took me 3 hours and 17 minutes, and not a single second of it was fun. The first boss I had to face on Foxhound was Ocelot, and this fight lured me into a false sense of hope that this was going to be easy. I had no trouble with Ocelot and killed him pretty easily, but the next boss fight is where I almost blew my shit smooth off, and it's because of the pain. mean. I think most of my playtime was spent trying to kill him. Like, I tried every guide possible on YouTube, and then I gave up. I was actually going to upload this video without actually getting the platinum trophy. I was so defeated I stopped playing and thought about how I was defeated by Barry B. Benson. However, a few hours later, I would find the courage to go back to war and actually killed him on my first try. Next on my hit list was the Fear, and boy oh boy was he just like the Pain. It was just pure luck I killed that dude. Then there was the End, and this guy is just more annoying than anything because he moves positions constantly and you have to search for him like you searched for your father who left to get milk 15 years ago. The next boss fight was the Fury, and I definitely think he's the easiest of them all. I just followed a guide that said to use the non-lethal sniper, which I actually didn't pick up, so I had to suffer a little bit and do it with the pistol instead. The Sorrow was another easy fight, as you can just use the Death and Revive pill to cheese it. However, Volgan wouldn't be so easy. This was another fight that took me way too long to beat. The Shaka HUD wasn't too much of a struggle, besides when you're on the bike and he sends those air missiles at you, so just remember to shoot those before you go boom boom. And finally, it was time to face the boss. And I bet you can guess how that turned out. After resorting to the rattiest strats possible, I eventually beat her and popped the Foxhound trophy, along with the glorious Platinum trophy.